Good evening, Dr. Santosh Abraham. Dr. Amir Ali here.
Seen you. I've seen you, said. I waved at you when you came in.
Fine. Fine. All well?
Well is completely time consumed with all kinds of. Today, 6 to 8:15, I was in another meeting. Now 8:30, another meeting. Morning, I was occupied from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock.
Very good. Very good initiative. God bless.
Thank you. But the effort is a little too high, you know.
Yeah,
6 weeks
right.
of continuous.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Audible?
Yeah, you're very much audible, sir.
Okay. Then we will start. Good evening to all. First of all, some problem for the answer is you commit to inaugurate our session, but he unfortunately can't join to the net. Some problems for him, and even with his absence, we'll start because we can't wait. And I'm welcome in his absence. Welcome to this program, Professor P. Ryan sir, who was the emeritus professor of our surgery department, and I am also welcoming Dr. Dayananda Bose sir. No CME without him in anywhere in India. He is the also one of the eminent teacher who wrote a book that is Surgical Pearls, and every students, especially all the undergraduate and postgraduate, with the one copy of Dayananda Bose book. I am happy to was my whole accepted the for with nice words, and he ready to evaluate the programs, both the answer and and our panelists are Santosh John Abrahams. He is expert in this field. I am taking anticipatory bail from him because he is very expert in knowledge of faith. Every nook and corner of India, his name is there in the tip of the tongue of all surgery PGs, DNB students. Very helpful. And he also, without in India, no CME or no program in the ASC or other surgery faculty without the name of Dr. Santosh John Abraham. And he also accepted. Actually, I was hesitant to ask him to join because he already completed a very Herculean task. That is our RRC program. That's just over. Even then, we accepted to conduct this program as an examiner. Also, I am welcoming Dr. Santosh John for the kind words and join this program. And Anil Kumar is another faculty, HOD of Alappuzha Medical College, also ready to join. And Babu PJ, unfortunately, is not able to join with us. And outside faculty, Dr. Amir Ali is a HOD of Alappuzha Medical College. He readily accepted our programs. We are very friendly with this. How many years? He will continue his friendship, and I'm not taking too much time by mentioning. And another, I want to two more names. That is Dr. Abdul Latif, HOD of Trivandrum, and Dr. Mohammad Salim. Actually, this program is the brainchild of these two people, Abdul Latif and Mohammad Salim, HOD CCM Medical College. And I am also welcoming all my students and surgery faculty, teachers to this program. And it is a happy week actually for the Department of Surgery Calicut. Not only this program, but also our PGs got 16 people selected for this MCS program, this research, 16 people. So that also I want to share with you. Then we'll start the program. I'm inviting the this panel of examiners, Santosh John Abraham and Anil Kumar and Amir Ali. And I'm also inviting Dr. Anand to proceed. Anand is the third year Calicut Medical College. So I think we can start. Santosh, we can start the program. Okay.
The record button, if you want the record button to be activated, Dr. Gopi.
What?
The record button.
That is everything ready. It is recording.
Fine,
Recording.
Fine.
It is recording.
Fine.
So we'll start the program, the presentation.
Sure. We can start.
All the examiners ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Anand?
Yes, sir.
Anand is not. Oh, Anand, can start.
Sir, I'm not able to share. Host is disabled screen sharing.
1 second, 1 second. And then
There is a green button in the lower down which says share screen.
Yes.
Just to the right of that, there is an upward arrow. Just click there.
It says showing that host to disabled participant screen sharing.
No. I'm just telling. Govi sir is the host.
Yes, sir.
No.
Who is the host?
Okay, sir. I've got it. Sir.
Okay, fine.
Good evening. Anand. Okay, ready, sir. Anand,
Good evening,
you can proceed.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting the topic on mass abdomen. My head of department is Professor Dr. E.V. Gobi, and Unit Chief is Additional Professor Dr. Alex Suman. My name is Dr. Anand, and I'll be presenting the case mass abdomen. Moving on, the patient details was Mr. A, a 60-year-old gentleman hailing from Kozhikode. He's a daily wage laborer by occupation. His chief complaints was abdominal pain and loss of weight and loss of appetite in 6 months. The patient was apparently normal 6 months back until he developed abdominal pain, dull aching, insidious in onset, gradual in progression over the right side of upper abdomen with no radiation, no relation with meals, no aggravating factors, relieved on taking analgesics for which he had consulted the local physician, following which he was referred to Medical College Calicut. He also gives a history of loss of weight of 8 kilograms in the past 4 to 5 months with history of loosening of his shirt, with a generalized loss of appetite to all food. He has no history of dysphagia or vomiting, no history of fever, night sweats, no history of generalized itching over the body, no history of yellowish discoloration of eyes, no history of early satiety, hematemesis, altered bowel habits, blood in stools, and altered colored stools. He has no history suggestive of urinary tract symptoms, no history of any contact with dogs or sheep, no history of blood transfusions, drug abuse, trauma, no history suggestive of cough or backache. On his past history, he has no previous history of recurrent episodes of abdominal pain or hospital admissions in the past. He's a known type 2 diabetic mellitus patient on OHA since 10 years and a CAD patient on regular medications and hypertensive on medications. He has no history of any previous surgeries or excision of any moles, no history of tuberculosis, no history of any chronic drug use, no history of travel or contact with any COVID positive patients.
You must not use any short forms like OHA. You should tell the full form. Yeah, you can write it down, but when you are presenting, you should not say OHA, HTN, and things like that. You should.
Okay, sir.
Okay, no TB, and you should say tuberculosis. And
tuberculosis.
no, it is not. Yeah, don't use short abbreviations. Don't use. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Continue. Good.
His personal history: he was a smoker for the last 30 years, 2 to 3 BDs per day. He consumed alcohol for the past 30 years, 1 pack brandy per day. He stopped both since 1 year. He consumes a non-vegetarian diet, bowel and bladder habits are regular, and sleep is disturbed. His family history: no history of any colonic gastric malignancy in the family, any cancer-related deaths. To summarize, my patient is a 60-year-old gentleman, ex-smoker and alcohol drinker with comorbidities, type 2 diabetes mellitus, hypertension and coronary artery disease, on medications, presented with dull aching abdominal pain over the right side of abdomen, with loss of appetite and unintentional significant loss of weight since 6 months, with no symptoms suggestive of metastasis, most probably pointing to a malignancy. Shall I move on to examination, sir?
Please.
Yes.
On general examination, the patient was examined in a well-lit room after taking consent, examined in supine position exposed from nipples to mid-thigh. His performance score is ECOG 1, height is 165 centimeter, weight 49 kilograms. His BMI, body mass index is 17.9 kilogram per meter square. Patient is afebrile. Patient was conscious, cooperative, oriented time, place, and person. He had a pulse rate of 80, right radial pulse, regular rhythm, volume, character. His blood pressure is 110/70 in right arm supine position. His respiratory rate was 16 per minute regular. The patient had pallor. He had no icterus clubbing, no cervical axial lymph nodes palpable. He had no pedal edema. His skin, pubic hair, and axillary hair was normal. His nails in the right hand showed tobacco stains. No pigmentation was seen. There was hollowing of supraclavicular fossa. No muscle wasting was seen. No signs of chronic liver disease. His triceps fold thickness was 6 mm. Mid-arm circumference 15 centimeter. His oral cavity showed tobacco stains and dental caries are present. Mucous membrane is moist. The tongue, they showed no signs of glossitis. Skull and spine was normal. Moving on to abdominal examination. On inspection, there was a fullness seen in the right hypochondrium and epigastric region, which is moving the respiration. Skin over the fullness appeared normal. It became less prominent on head raising. No other fullness was seen in any of the regions. There was no direct veins, no visible gastric peristalsis. Umbilicus showed no nodules. Honeyal orifices were normal. External genitalia was normal. There's a video of the mass moving with the respiration. Moving on to palpation. There was no tenderness present. Mass present in the right hypochondrium was extending to the epigastrium with the respiration. It was approximately 7 to 5 centimeters in size, hard in consistency. Irregular surface fell throughout the mass. It extended vertically 5 centimeter below the xiphisternum and 6 centimeter below costal margin. Along the midclavicular line, a lower sharp border is made out. Upper border could not be made out. Fingers could not be insinuated along the costal margin on the right side. It is possible on the left side. There was no splenomegaly. Umbilicus was, there was no nodule seen. Renal angle, no tenderness or fullness. Corneal orifice were normal, external genitalia normal. On percussion, there was a dull note heard until 5 centimeter below xiphisternum and about 6 centimeter below the costal margin along the midclavicular line. He had a liver span of 15 centimeter. Dullness was continuous along the line of liver dullness. The rest of the regions were resident in percussion, no shifting dullness. Auscultation, no bruit was heard over the mass. Bowel sounds are present. On distal retinal examination, there was no findings particularly, no mass, no fecal sign present, no nodules, no prostatomegaly.
Excuse me, Anand.
Yes, sir.
Palpation, once you finish the palpation, you should tell the plane of the swelling. Mention the plane, after palpation, it is always better to say the plane of the swelling, which is very important.
Okay,
Can you tell me the plane of the swelling?
So it was intra-abdominal, sir. Intra-abdominal, intraperitoneal.
Intra-abdominal, intraperitoneal.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the examination, we can ask the questions.
Yes.
First to be end of the palpation. Hello?
Continue. Yeah, continue.
Okay, you can get.
There was no supraclavicular lymph nodes palpable. Skull and spine was normal. Other systems, serious. S1, S2 heard no murmurs. Respiratory system was clear. Hereditary equal on both sides. Central nervous system, higher mental functions. There was no neurological deficit, no definite muscle wasting. To summarize, my case is 60-year-old male, known alcohol drinker, ex-smoker with diabetes, coronary disease, hypertension medications, who present with complaints of right side abdominal pain, loss of appetite, with a significant loss of weight in 6 months. On examination, he had palpable liver mass, which is hard in consistency, irregular surface, involving both right hypochondrium and epigastrium. There was no supraclavicular lymph nodes, no ascites, no splenomegaly, no features of any metastasis. So I'd like to present my case as a differential diagnosis.
Before diagnose, the examination asks some questions for the general examination and your abdomen before come to your diagnosis. So, panelists, anything you discuss with the examination of inspection, palpation, percussion, or general examination? Dr. Sandor Jordan.
You have presented this as a case of right hypochondrial mass.
Yes, sir.
What are how do you divide? I mean, from the presentation, it looks to me more of an epigastric swelling than a hypochondrial swelling. It is more on the epigastrium. Is it more on the epigastrium or on the hypochondrium?
So actually, it's more on the hypochondrium. More hypochondrium extending towards the epigastrium.
Fine. Okay. So you have an irregular surface.
Irregular surface.
And moving well with respiration.
Yes, sir.
Surface, has it got any implications specifically?
No implications are palpable, sir.
Okay, fine. How much of fluid is required for eliciting a shifting dullness?
So 1.5 liters. 1000 to 1.5 liters.
Shifting dullness?
1000 ml to 1.5.
It's much less than that. It's much less than that. Generally accepted as 50 to 150 ml for a puddle sign, 150 to 350 for a shifting dullness. Then what after that?
Fluid thrill 1.5 to 2 liters.
For that, you get another one called as horseshoe dullness.
Horseshoe dullness.
Horseshoe dullness, where the concavity is upwards, and then you have a fluid thrill. Okay, that is the various grades of your accumulation of fluids. Okay. Okay. No jaundice.
No jaundice, sir. No.
Okay. No supraclavicular lymphadenopathy.
No,
Did
sir,
you
no
mention
lymph
that?
nodes. Yes, sir. No lymph nodes fibrils.
Supraclavicular lymphadenopathy. Okay, fine. Fine. We will have.
Dr. Amir Ali? Hello?
Yes.
Any
Yes, good
comments?
presentation, Anand. Yeah. That is the only thing I was collecting. Otherwise, it is good. You have done a good presentation. Immediately after the
Dr. Anand, if I may ask you a question, why did you assess the liver span?
To see if any hepatomegaly, to see for hepatomegaly, sir. It was more than.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly one incoming call came and disturbed the conversation. Sorry.
Yeah.
Immediately after palpation, before you go to percussion, you should always make it a point to say the plane of the swelling.
Yes, sir.
And in the general examination, you don't have to. In the inspectory findings, I think you don't have to say the leg raising test or head raising test. You don't have to mention.
Okay, sir.
Usually that is not required for in your inspection. It is you do it during palpation.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Otherwise, it's fine.
Dr. Anil Kumar. Dr. Anil Kumar. Dr. Anil Kumar. Hello.
Yeah, let him get connected. By which time, let him get connected. Doctor, why do you want to look for a liver span? You didn't mention.
So it was to check for massive hepatomegaly. It was more than 7 cm.
Can you get a palpable liver in the absence of a hepatomegaly?
No, sir. Except in thin build patient. In thin build patient, we can get.
What is that called? It is in cases of visceroptosis when the whole abdominal content hangs down because of the loss of muscle power. You get palpability of masses in the upper abdomen even without its enlargement. That is called girdle sign. Girdle sign. Okay? It's called a girdle sign. You need to palpate from behind and see. Okay? Fine.
Anand, I want to ask one question. Examination, abdomen. Hello, Anand?
Yes, sir.
During the examination of peristalsis, anything you ask the patient? Examination of peristalsis, and do you ask anything to the patients?
We ask the patient if he has had any oral fluids or food.
No. While you are inspecting, will you ask the patient anything? Part of examination. Will you ask the patient to hold the respiration?
Sorry, sir?
Will you ask the patient to hold the respiration?
We'll ask the patient to hold the respiration so that it will be more prominent.
Avoid the respiratory movement few seconds, that you can more visible. Okay. Now,
did you mention about vomiting? Did you mention about vomiting?
Yes, sir. There was no history of any vomiting, sir.
So if the patient has got vomiting, what all things will we be looking for?
If the patient has any episode of vomiting, mostly it might signify a large liver mass compressing the stomach.
No, come out of liver, you don't know. You are only abdominal pain, loss of appetite and loss of weight.
Okay.
So what all things will you be looking in a vomiting.
If the vomitus, we'll be looking at the if it is projectile or not. If there is any bile stain, if there is any blood stain, if there is any undigested food particles, if vomiting.
Yeah. So most of the abdominal pains, if they are colicky, they generally are accompanied by vomiting. So this is a dull aching type of a pain.
Yes.
Dull aching type of a pain with a loss of appetite and loss of weight as your predominant symptoms, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right. How do you go about investigating this patient?
First, I would like to do an ultrasound examination as an extension of my clinical examination. Ultrasound of the abdominal pelvis to confirm my organ of origin, and to look for any nodules, to look for surrounding any adjacent tissues, to look for ascites.
What do you want to see in your patient? According to you, you are entertaining the possibility of a metastatic liver disease.
Yes, sir.
Right.
To look at yes, sir.
What are you looking for in this particular case ultrasound?
So in my ultrasound, I'll be looking to confirm the organ, that is liver. I will look to confirm the nodules. If there is, then to assess the status of the portal vein. If there is any extrahepatic
nodules, you need to look at whether they are multiple. Number one, whether they are unilateral, bilobular, unilobular, bilobular. Okay. Next.
Next, we'll be looking at the status. If there is any intrahepatic biliary radical dilatation, we'll be looking at the status of the portal.
How often you get intrahepatic biliary radical dilatation in a secondary liver?
If there is any other primary tumor within the then there can be a compression of the bile duct, and there can be.
No. Other primary tumor means?
If there are any lymph nodes also compressing the bile duct.
I'm talking about metastatic liver disease. How often you get jaundice in such patients, and hence biliary radical dilatation?
It's not common, sir.
It's not common. It's not common. Okay, it's not common. Why is it not common? See, jaundice to develop in metastatic liver disease, the functional parenchyma has to be that. It is generally not that low. Very seldom you get an obstruction, because unless the tumor, the secondaries are at the level of the porta hepatis, you don't get that kind of an obstruction. Okay.
Yes.
Anything else that you look for in ultrasound?
We'll be looking at the ascites. If there's any ascites, we'll be looking along with the Doppler. We'll be looking for the portal vein involvement. Then look at the other adjacent structures. Stomach, the hepatic flexure, the gallbladder status, as common bile duct dilatation. Then other areas in the pelvis, any pelvic nodules.
Common bile duct dilatation is a result of?
Any lymph node, suppose if there is enlarged lymph node mass.
Seldom you see all these things, isn't it? When you see a metastatic liver disease, how often you get a jaundice? You seldom get a jaundice. So you would probably look at other primary sites. Again, venous extension of venous thrombosis is again not a feature of secondary liver. It's more of a primary liver extension rather than a secondary liver extension. Okay, I would like Dr. Amir Ali to come in. Dr. Amir Ali. He's also disconnected, is it?
Yeah. Amir Ali, Anil Kumar also.
Dr. Anil Kumar, you would like to speak? Dr. Anil Kumar would like to speak?
Hello.
Anand?
Anil Kumar.
Hi, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Anil Kumar. Anything about this case discussion? Now the diagnosis and the stage of investigation. Anil Kumar? I think not connected. Hello, Anand.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Can I come in, Anand?
Yes, sir. Can you hear you,
Yeah.
sir?
Yeah. This can you go to the percussion slide?
Yes, sir.
Percussion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Actually, in the basics, when you say dullness, what you are written is right.
Yes, sir.
But I would like you to say, you should say liver dullness is felt in which particular place you should say.
Okay. Okay, sir.
In percussion, you should
Yes, sir.
say liver dullness is heard, where, in which intercostal space you should say.
Oh, okay, sir.
And then you can keep percussing down.
Oh,
And you can say dullness is continuous along the line of liver dullness. It's all fine.
okay. Okay.
But first and foremost, you should say liver dullness is felt where? In which
Okay.
intercostal space, whether it is the fourth intercostal space or fifth intercostal space, you should, that is how, the teaching goes.
Okay.
And then rest of the things, what you have written is okay. Rest of the region resonant on percussion, no shifting dullness is well taken. And liver span 15 centimeters is fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
sir.
where did you stop, Anand? Where did you stop with this? You have stopped. Where did you stop now? Your presentation. Where are you in your presentation now?
The diagnosis, sir. Diagnosis.
Yeah, come to a diagnosis.
Okay. So yeah. So now you should tell the anatomical diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
And then you should go into your clinical provisional diagnosis.
Okay, sir. So my anatomical diagnosis,
Okay.
it's most probably a malignancy involving the right hypochondrium. So most probably the liver mass.
No, anatomical diagnosis you can't say about malignancy. You have to say it is liver.
That's a liver mass.
Yeah, that is. You can't talk about malignancy now. Anatomical diagnosis. We are asking you what exactly the organ. We are trying to pinpoint the organ in your presentation.
Yes.
So that is liver.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And then in your professional diagnosis, then you can talk about about your malignancy and things like that. So in your professional clinical diagnosis, what is the in order of preference? What would you like to give as your diagnosis in order of preference?
In order of preference, I would like to give as first as a secondaries to the liver, followed
Yes.
by primary hepatocellular carcinoma, and then a
When you
carcinoma
say
of blood.
secondaries in the liver, when you say secondaries in the liver,
Yes, sir.
you should also be in a position to say where is the primary.
Yes, sir. Secondaries in liver.
If you don't know the primary, how will you say?
Secondaries in
Occult
liver.
primary.
With the occult primary, sir.
Yeah, that the sentence becomes complete when you say secondaries of the liver. It alone is an incomplete statement.
Yes.
When you say it's a primary liver, it's a complete statement. When it's a secondaries in the liver, you should say it's secondaries with known primary or unknown primary. That means it's an occult primary. If it is a known primary, you should say it is either from the lungs or anything else with your stomach, whatever it is, where according to your clinical presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the first provisional diagnosis. What's your second provisional diagnosis?
Second provisional is hepatocellular carcinoma, sir.
Hepatocellular carcinoma. That's primary.
Primary, sir.
Yes. Okay. Fine. So with this, it's fine. We can go on to the next. And while going for the next investigation,
yes, sir.
You said you are going to do an ultrasound.
Yes, sir.
But in a long case presentation, ultrasound as a first investigation is not acceptable.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, even if we will do ultrasound, but you should always start with blood.
Oh, okay.
That order you should not miss, because if this is a short case, then if you ask, what is that, to prove your diagnosis, to know the anatomical diagnosis, what is that you will do, then you can say, I will do an ultrasound.
Okay, okay, sir.
But when it is a long case, you should say, I will start the investigation with blood.
Okay.
That will be blood investigation. No, in blood investigation, what will you do?
So in blood investigation, first I'll be doing a complete blood count along with an RFT and renal function test and a liver function test.
Okay.
Along with tumor markers.
Yes.
And viral serology markers.
Okay. Fine. What are the things you will expect, in this, in a blood picture? What is that you will expect?
In the blood picture, the patient has clinically has pallor So he might be having his hemoglobin, he might be having anemia.
Okay.
Then in his liver function test, he might be having a deranged alkaline liver enzymes might be deranged.
Yes, alkaline phosphatase
might be elevated.
Okay.
And his tumor markers will be doing CEA, carcinoma embryonic antigen, and CA 99. They may be elevated in case if there's any malignancy primary, so they might be elevated. And alpha beta protein.
Why do you do CA 199 and why do you do CEA?
CA 99 is most commonly elevated in a bile duct or a carcinoma pancreas.
Okay.
And carcinoma CA is elevated in colorectal carcinomas.
It's fine. Okay. That will be everything you have covered about blood. Fine.
Yes. Yes.
So next, what will you do?
And the one will, if you are doing 120 or CA 120, but that means you are suspecting a secondary. The primary hepatocellular tumor marker is alpha beta protein and
alpha beta protein.
CA. Any other tumor markers? This case of liver.
We'll be doing PIVKA K3,
You will do
protein induced vitamin K3, the descarboxy DCP. Doing that. PIVKA K3.
Which HCC alpha beta protein will be absent?
In a fibrolamellar variant, it will be absent.
Okay, proceed.
You are not mentioned about INR, PT-INR, prothrombin time, INR. No, should be mentioned because when you say cover blood, everything should be covered in blood. You can't go back and then say, sir, I forgot PT-INR.
Yes.
Why do you want to do a PT-INR?
In case of any liver derangement, the PT-INR will be prolonged.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to give
other examinations.
Then that is not the only reason why we do PT-INR.
In case if you're planning for surgery also, if there's no derangement.
No, not surgery. If you are planning for a biopsy, we need to know to give vitamin K, where we need to know the PT-INR and its values.
Yes.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
And next, after blood?
After
blood investigations, I'll be going for an ultrasound. And
no, Anand, no. After ultrasound, you can't go for after blood. It is not ultrasound. You should go for a chest X-ray.
Yes.
Because
yes,
you have mentioned about secondaries,
Yes, sir. We're doing a chest X-ray too.
Yeah, you should. Yes, you should chest X-ray. Even if you are not suspecting secondaries, chest X-ray is a must because he has been a chronic smoker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you have also mentioned no history of tuberculosis.
Yes.
So chest X-ray is a must in all patients, in a long case.
Oh.
And of course, some examiners, they want you to mention urine analysis also, because when it is liver, when you're suspecting liver, urine analysis is also one of the important investigations. Why?
In case of any hepatorenal, there'll be.
Yes.
There'll be URE. In case of any prostate.
What will you look for in urine analysis? If it is anything involving liver, what is that you will expect?
Albumin will be raised. There'll be albumin.
Yeah.
Microalbuminuria.
Yeah. Okay. Then.
Next we'll be going for
diabetic keto.
Our patient is diabetic.
Yes.
So we'll be looking for ketone bodies, urine ketone bodies.
Ketone bodies you should look. Okay. Then chest X-ray.
Yes, sir. Chest X-ray to only lung mets.
Yeah, that's right. No, not only lung mets. Lung mets is one of it. Chest X-ray, you should know whether he is having a subclinical tuberculosis. And know whether he has a COPD. How old is the patient? 60-year-old patient, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and a chronic smoker.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
so then this is how systematically you have to do the investigations. Then you do ultrasound is fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue. Good. Up to now is fine.
Yes,
continue.
So after that,
I think when you go on to the clinical presentation like this, it would have been nice that you would say that you would do diagnostic investigations to establish the diagnosis, instead of instead of saying that I would start this thing. Ultrasound is a good examination as far as the diagnosis is concerned, because unless you have a diagnosis, your route map will not be right.
Yes, sir.
So many of the examiners will not agree on starting from urine, etc., etc. So it's a good idea to say that I will do a diagnostic investigation. After the diagnostic investigation, then all these things can come in. Otherwise, as Dr. Amir Ali has said, there will be a battery of investigations which is coming in.
Okay, sir.
So you have done an ultrasound, and
Next
we
will
have,
be
we have
next.
discussed. What next?
Next will be I'll be going for a triple phase CT going for a triple phase after the before.
What is your clinical diagnosis now? Metastasis from where?
Secondary livers with unknown primary.
Is a likely primary?
From the history, I've ruled out. From the history,
intra-abdominal, extra-abdominal.
Actually, from the history, I've ruled out a stomach, carcinoma stomach. There's no history of any hepatic.
You said that there is a early satiety.
No, there's
loss
no
of appetite, loss of weight.
There's only loss of appetite and loss of weight, and
Okay.
an abdominal pain which is on the right hypochondrium.
Fine.
So
it alludes to what?
So most probably it is it could be a something pertaining to the liver, primary, or it could be a from the history I've ruled out.
Now you cannot change. Now you cannot change your diagnosis from secondary to primary. You stick to secondary.
Secondary is the liver.
Yeah, with the loss of appetite and loss of weight.
Yeah. From the history, I've ruled out a colorectal carcinoma, which is most commonly because there's no alteration of bowel habits, no altered bowel habits. There's no history of any carcinoma stomach.
Is it necessary to have altered bowel habits to diagnose a carcinoma colon?
No, it's only from the history. Just to.
No. At that age, with the history of background of alcoholism, loss of appetite, loss of weight?
Yeah, he has no history of any melena or blood in stools or any other bowel related.
I agree. You move on. You're not willing to change. Fine, you move on. Okay, move
on. So I'll be going for a triple phase CT to confirm the organ of origin and to look for any to rule out any other
where
in the
CT be taking
a triple phase CT
of what?
Of the abdomen and pelvis with the pancreatic protocol to rule out any pancreatic malignancy, because I'm not able to.
What is the suggestion that this is a pancreas?
Because from the history, I've not been able to rule out any primary from the pancreas.
So you think that pancreatic, how many secondaries liver you have seen?
A few cases.
50?
Few cases.
Few cases. Which were the primary sites there?
It is a colorectal.
Colorectal. That probably would be the commonest. Without symptom, how many pancreatic malignancies with secondary liver you had seen? Without obstructive jaundice, without mass, unless it's a neuroendocrine tumor.
Neuroendocrine tumor.
Right. Even neuroendocrine tumors are going to be less.
Yes,
so the primaries which you are going to look in a totally asymptomatic patient will be neuroendocrine tumors, carcinoid tumors, malignant melanomas, melanomas of the orbital cavity. Okay, these are the lesions which predominantly present without much symptoms with massive hepatomegaly with secondaries. The rest of the things will have some kind of a suggestion. Out of that, colorectal malignancy is something which is going to be common in the list. Will that produce loss of appetite and loss of weight?
Yes, sir.
Loss of appetite. What about stomach?
Stomach loss of appetite will be there, sir.
Loss of appetite, loss of. So it's not a time to decide whether you are dealing with an intra-abdominal primary or an extra-abdominal primary. So you should have an open mind at this stage. Okay, fine. Go ahead.
After the triple phase CT, then we should go for a colonoscopy or an apogee endoscopy to rule out any synchronous
What do you mean by triple CT?
triple phase CT. There are 3 phases, sir. One is an
Yeah.
arterial phase, a portal venous phase, and a delayed phase.
Okay.
So we can differentiate the tumors based on the arterial and venous phases, different phases.
Okay. Good.
You see only liver with bilobar metastatic lesion. No other lesion is seen inside the CT.
So it is a secondary. It is a metastatic secondary liver.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
No other lesion is seen.
Then I'll be planning for a colonoscopy. I'll plan for a colonoscopy to look for any synchronous.
This is where your tumor markers would come into some help.
Into handy.
Okay, tumor markers will come into help. So you do a colonoscopy. What for?
To look out for any lesions. To look for any synchronous lesions.
It's not synchronous lesions. You are looking at primary itself.
Primary, to look for any primary tumor. To look for any ulcerations or any.
So you find a mass in the right column.
And the right column. So we'll take a biopsy.
Biopsy is adenocarcinoma. The biopsy is adenocarcinoma. Moderately differentiated.
So then we should stage the disease.
What is the stage now?
So it will be stage 4 disease because there is a huge liver mass.
Yes.
Then next we should plan for any if there are no symptoms of obstruction or any other symptoms for the patient. So we can plan.
Your patient.
Yes, sir.
Your patient. No symptoms except loss of appetite and weight.
So we can plan for a palliative chemotherapy for the patient after discussing the.
Why do you want to use this adjective palliative now?
We'll first discuss in a tumor board in a multidisciplinary team.
Very safe terminology. You are the active surgical partner there.
Yes, sir.
What are your concerns?
We can plan for if the patient sees the stage the disease, look if it's resectable or not.
Sir, your patient is a biopsy-proven right colonic malignancy with bilobar hepatic metastasis.
Then we can plan for a surgery.
Plan for a surgery. I like to clarify. Relax. Your patient, you have found out that there is a hepatomegaly secondary. You have investigated. Colonoscopy shows a right colonic growth. Biopsy taken, moderately differentiated adenocarcinoma. CT scan shows bilobar multiple metastasis. That's the picture.
So then we'll counsel the patient, discuss the case in a tumor board, and then since he has the patient has no symptoms at present, we can plan for a palliative
Leave that palliation for the time being. What will you do?
Any neoadjuvant.
You will give chemotherapy.
Yeah, neoadjuvant chemotherapy.
You will give chemotherapy.
Yes.
Okay. What chemotherapy will you give?
FOLFOX regimen.
What does it contain?
Folinic acid, oxaliplatin, and leucovorin.
Okay. 5-fluorouracil, leucovorin, and oxaliplatin. How do you know that this chemotherapy is going to be effective?
We can after this thing we can do a repeat. We can reassess, take a repeat CT.
No. There are about 20 to 25% of the patients who are not going to respond to any 5FU based regime.
We can do a mutation. There's a
yes. What are those tests? What are those tests that you are going to do?
Dihydropyrimidine reductase mutation.
That is dihydropyrimidine is the next oral drug instead of giving 5FU, capecitabine.
Now we should test.
What test will you be doing?
We'll be doing a test for mutations.
What
The
mutation?
KRAS,
KRAS
NRAS,
and
and
MMR.
microsat MMR.
Yeah, microsatellite instability. Instability. Okay. So if this is there, what are you going to give instead of that FOLFOX regime?
We will give Intractinib. Then
What?
if microsatellite instability is positive, we'll give Intractinib.
No, you have now got two sets of drugs which have to be given. They are called the targeted therapy. What are those bases of targeted therapy? One is you have a group of agents which are going to be epidermal growth factor.
We can give a Bevacizumab, Cetuximab, and
Panitumab. Okay, what is the other set of drugs that you are going to give?
It'll be immunomodulators.
No, you give then vascular growth, endothelial vascular growth inhibiting factor, EGFR pain. Now, this is the tumor board decision. Then what is your concern now?
If the patient, if the patient has no symptoms, no symptoms at present. So after the neoadjuvant chemo, we can plan.
Any vascular inhibitory growth factor acts as an angiogenesis infiltratory factor, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So these patients are notoriously known to bleed, notoriously known to perforate. So you as a surgeon in that tumor board, provided if you are particularly dealing with a right-sided malignancy, should caution that, look, you may, even in the absence of an obstruction, if your choice of treatment is bevacizumab, you should be in a position to offer upfront surgery.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes,
sir. That's important. Then don't say that you're in the tumor board.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tumor board is you also there as a surgeon.
Yes,
and
sir.
you cannot operate this patient within 6 weeks because if you are giving this agents, you will have problems in controlling the bleeding.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
Okay, fine. So what will you do? You have given, Dr. Amir Ali, I'll stop here because you have been silent spectator. I'll stop here. I'll come back again. Dr. Amir Ali, please.
Yes,
sir.
A good discussion from Dr. Santosh's side. I'm telling you, the colonoscopy is normal.
Colonoscopy is normal. Then I'll be planning for an upper GI endoscopy.
Okay, it's normal.
Then we'll be to look for any primary. We can take a PET CT scan. PET scan.
Why PET scan?
How does it find the primary?
Yeah.
If there's any occult primary 15%, we can.
That could be secondaries.
You are looking for secondaries in the bones?
We can do bone scan.
Why is that?
No, they will all show they will all show secondaries all over the body, nothing else.
Yeah.
So then to look for the primary, we can go for a bronchoscopy to look at any lung carcinoma or any
How
often do you get? Yes, please.
How often you get a bronchial malignancy with secondary in the liver?
Not very common, sir. Not really.
Very uncommon.
So we can go for an ophthalmic examination to look at any melanoma in the uveal choroid.
Do you think that at this stage, do you think that a biopsy of the liver in the secondary is important?
Yes, we can plan for a biopsy.
No,
yes.
It is not like that, Anand. You can't say yes, we can plan. That is not the thing. You should have, a biopsy of the liver is mandatory. Than going for bronchoscopy and then going for all the thinking of melanoma.
Yes, sir.
I gave you a hint that you have done a PT INR.
Yes, sir.
for you to come out with the investigation that you will do a liver biopsy.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a you have mentioned liver is nodular, and it's a safe liver. You can always go and do a liver biopsy. What if the liver biopsy tell you?
It will tell if it's the histology, if it is uh, same as primary or
Same
tell
as
us the histology.
Yeah,
Will tell us the histology if it is any
it will tell you whether it's
poorly
a primary,
differentiated or not.
yeah, primary, hepatoma or a secondary
Yes.
syndrome, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then you can plan. Then over to the other examiners. Other examiners, I think they are not. They are not coming. Dr. Gopi sir.
Anand, by
Yes, sir.
clinically, how will you differentiate primary in the liver and by palpation, secondary liver?
Secondary liver, there will be irregular involved in both lobes. There will be bilobal involvement. There will be umbilication can be palpated, and you can feel a sharp
Typical amplification is there. This is suggestive of secondary liver and
secondary
multiple.
liver.
Usually, hepatocellular are the unilocular. Usually unilocular and right side.
Right.
Okay, that's it. And the secondary will take a biopsy. Which if you primary will you take a biopsy? Well, primary liver.
Yes, will not plan for biopsy. Primary.
Not? Why you not plan for biopsy?
So because they can be tumor can disseminate, and also risk of bleeding is there.
Not tumor.
There's a vascular tumor.
That is why you are doing
operable case, you should not take a biopsy. They are planning for palliative. Is it palliative? It is with only inoperable biopsy is indicated. Okay. What is the needle used for biopsy, liver biopsy?
Chiba needle. Chiba.
Okay.
Vimsel.
Yes. Still, I want to contact Dr. Anil Kumar. Where is he? Dr. Anil Kumar, examiner. Is he here? Anil Kumar? I don't know what is the problem for that.
Okay, now let us now discuss. Let us now discuss that liver secondary. We have done bit of colon, right?
Okay.
You have done targeted therapy. I'd like to complete you. Targeted therapy, and you have raised your concerns. You are not operating this patient. You have given targeted therapy. How are you going to follow up this patient?
We should within 3 months after we should do a repeat. After 6 to 8 weeks, we should do a repeat CEA and a repeat. We can take a repeat CEA to restage the tumor, and we should also do a colonoscopy to see if the lesion has regressed or not. This is a complete response or a partial response.
What is targeted therapy, Anand?
So to a particular gene mutation, it targets that.
Okay, we have given agents. We have given agents EGFR and VGFR agents. We have given. We have given 6 courses, 3 courses, whatever it is. You have a clinical assessment. What is your aim at this point of time to treat this patient?
Right now, the aim is to see if there is a response to the chemotherapy or not.
Right.
To assess the and then if there is and if there is no response, then we have to plan for surgery.
If you don't have it, if you have got no response, you will change the line of management. You will still not operate this patient, but the operation is required when you are going to have a disease which is brought under control. Is CA has come down to normal or CDA has been acceptable, then you would try to do a primary resection. Okay.
Yes,
what about the secondary?
Secondary, we can
you do an ultrasound. Will the secondaries be disappearing?
That we have to assess if the size is decreased or not.
Do you think that this will disappear completely?
No, it will not disappear completely.
It takes
No.
it just like the chest X-ray showing a pneumonic patch. It takes weeks and months to disappear. So if you do an ultrasound, you will still see nodules in the ultrasound.
In ultrasound.
You will still see nodules. So where do you go now?
Next, if the after assessing the response, then we have to we can plan for we have to discuss with the patient and then plan and counsel.
What are you going to discuss? What are you going to discuss?
That if the chemo has a response, if there's no partial response, then we have to change the chemotherapy line.
That's all done. That's all done. Doctor, what I want to know is that even if there is a CT presence of a nodule, it may not be biologically active. It may not be biologically active. So you should combine at this stage a PET scan to see whether the nodules are biologically active or not. If they are not biologically active, you leave it alone. If they are biologically active, you can think in terms of a metastacectomy if they are bilobar or a lobular resection if it's a unilobular. Okay? So that all depends on the CA value also. Now we'll leave the colon there.
Yes,
we will come back to something else. How do you treat if it is a stomach with secondaries?
First, we again we have to assess the patient if there are any symptoms. If there is
your
plan
is
for
all your patient.
You have to plan for neoadjuvant chemotherapy. With the liver, you have to plan for neoadjuvant chemo. We give 3 cycles pre-op.
Definitely, what is the difference between these two patients? One is colon, one is stomach. Which one is better?
Better prognosis, colon, better prognosis.
Liver with secondaries in the stomach with secondaries in the liver will have a very dismal prognosis.
Yes.
Very dismal prognosis. Okay. Dr. Amirali.
Yes, Anand.
Yes, sir.
Again, coming back to liver.
Yes, sir.
Your diagnosis was primary hepatoma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The diagnosis comes as primary hepatocellular carcinoma. What are the options left for you?
We can assess the patient based on if the patient requires, according to the child flu Turcotte classification, assess the patient and plan the different regimens, like any resection can be done, or any ablation, or any transarterial chemoembolization. We can plan for a multimodality approach based on the criteria. Like,
what are your plans for resection? When we talk of resection, then you should tell us about the surgical, classification and anatomical classification of liver.
We can plan for where the tumor, if it's involved the right lobe, we can go for right hepatectomy. It's a left lobe. Depends on the where the lesion is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Depending on the site, sir.
Yes.
We can plan for resection.
Okay. What resection?
And how will you assess the? Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Anand, your patient is an alcoholic.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Anand,
Yes, sir.
your patient is an alcoholic. So you have been persistently telling that he is a heavy drinker. What is
Yes,
that there in your mind?
Alcoholic cirrhosis.
So he is either a candidate for a cirrhotic with a superadded malignancy, or his liver is fine and there is a de novo hepatocellular carcinoma. These are the two options. That is why Dr. Govi sir has asked you, how do you assess the liver?
We have to check for the functional liver remnant. If we should go for a CT.
You mentioned what the child
Turcotte
classification. Which group will you operate? Which group you want to operate?
Child class
For
A and
child, for child
class A and B.
A and A?
A and B we can plan for
We can order.
research.
A will operate. B and C will not operate. Am I correct?
C will go for palliative, sorafenib or supportive
How will
therapy.
you assess before operation? How will you know remaining volume of liver is adequate or not?
We can do a CT volumetry, or we can go for indocyanine dye clearance.
What is that? Indocyanine.
It is a dye that non-anionic dye shows the clearance. So if there is more than 15% retention in 15 minutes, it is not the functional liver amine is not adequate. For a cirrhotic liver, there should be at least 20 to 30%, 40%. There should be functional liver amine should be there.
Yes,
That pertains only to resectional liver surgeries or hepatocellular carcinoma. Does that mean that that is the end of the road?
No, so we can plan for transarterial chemoembolization or
Any other, they are all palliative procedures. Any other modality of surgical treatment that can be offered?
A liver transplant, for that is for child class A.
Why? What criteria would be using there?
Criteria used will be
You've heard about Milan's criteria?
Milan's criteria.
What is that?
If there are any, the number of lesions, 2 or 3 lesions less than 3 centimeter, or no extrahepatic or lymphovascular invasion, and the size of it, total size of the diameter should be less than 8 centimeter.
And how do you make a predictive, liver transplantation in a cirrhotic liver? What system will you use?
Fong scoring system.
Okay.
Fong scoring system.
When do you think that the patient will be listed for a transplant? On what basis?
If it's score.
Yeah, what score?
The Fong scoring system.
That's okay. The transplantation list will go on a MELD scoring system, MEL scoring system, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the patient is not a fit. Sir. Go, sir.
Hello. Anand, you mentioned these 2 types of variant of the hepatocellular. That is, how do you differentiate the fibrolamellar and the HCC?
Fibrolamellar. The HCC and HCC primary hepatocellular carcinoma will have the AFP will be elevated in the fibrolamellar variant. AFP is not elevated. Neurotensin B and vitamin B12 binding protein is elevated.
Which lobe is affected? Fibrolamellar first commonly. Which lobe, right or left?
Right lobe.
It is commonly left lobe. And what about prognosis?
Fibrolamellar is better prognosis.
But any other difference with these two?
Then
it is associated lymph nodes.
Fibrolamellar is associated lymph nodes.
Any other variant of hepatocellular carcinoma other than fibrolamellar?
Childhood variant is there. Childhood variant. Then HCC along with cholangiocarcinoma. Then along with carcinomas along with sarcomatoid variant.
These are the variants. Okay. After your liver, say your liver resection after right hepatectomy, what are the immediate postoperative complication patient can develop?
Immediate postoperative patient can have patient can go for hypoglycemia or any hypothermia.
That is highly post liver resection, hypothermia and hypoglycemia. How do you manage these two conditions?
Hypoglycemia we can You can go for regular GRBs monitoring, give IV fluids with dextrose reserves. Dextrose. Then hypothermic, can give hypothermic blankets.
Yes. How will you, what are the methods of resection of the liver? How is, I don't know, seen or not, any techniques of liver resection available, modern technique and old technique?
Old technique was finger fracture, using finger fracture technique. New we use Cavitron.
Or digitoclasia, you can say digitoclasia.
Digitoclasia. New we use Cavitron ultrasonic surgical aspirator. Then we can use water jet or ligashore or harmonic scalpel.
These are the modern techniques. Okay. If it is, you mentioned, if it is both lobes affected, what is the treatment? Whether mentioned or not, I don't know. If both lobes are hepatocellular carcinoma, then how will you manage?
Both lobes we can plan for we can plan for portal vein embolization.
Both lobes are affected, multiple these things. Both are affected. Portal vein embolization. What is the purpose? Portal vein. Why should a portal vein embolization? Both lobes are involved.
We can go for ablation.
When you give a portal vein, both lobes involved. No point in portal vein block. If there is both lobe is affected.
So we can, if it is, so it will be according to criteria, it will be child class C. Then it will, we can plan for palliative sorafenib. We can.
Both lobe is affected. If the treatment is the liver transplantation, not this other term. Liver transplantation, the treatment is both lobes are affected. Single lobe, you can say, according to the criteria, you can resect the liver. And one more thing, one single question regarding the anatomy of the. What is the oxygen supply of the liver? Which are the vessels supply oxygen supply? From which vessels?
Portal vein, hepatic artery. Portal vein 75%, hepatic 25%.
Okay. Yes, other examiners.
What is arterial embolization?
Arterial embolization, sir, the metastases usually supplied by hepatic artery. So we can embolize using chemoembolize using doxorubicin or any fibrin or glue. So the artery will be will cause ischemic necrosis of the metastatic lesion.
When is the ideal time for arterial embolization? Ideal in a primary hepatoma. When is it ideal to do an arterial embolization? What are the criteria for arterial embolization?
So if there is any bleeding from the or rupture from the hepatoma, we can embolize. We can embolize the hepatic artery.
Okay.
And
then what are the other criteria? You can the options which you can give to the patient. Patient is not not willing for hepatectomy.
Yes.
But one of the lobe is involved. So what are the criteria to plan for arterial embolization? We can't, when all the lobes are involved, there is no point doing an art like Dr. Gopi sir said, when portal, no point doing anything to the portal vein.
Yes.
Same thing goes with the artery embolization. There are specific do's and don'ts when you can do arterial embolization, when you should not do arterial embolization, which the patient will not benefit. I am asking.
The size of the lesion is
when how patient.
Size of the lesion, if it is less than 2 centimeter, and the number of lesions are less than 3.
Okay. Then single lobe involvement.
Single lobe involvement.
Yes. Then
no other extrahepatic myths or any lymphovascular invasion.
Fine. Good.
And
Okay.
any other palliative
Thank you.
palliative procedure for liver hepatocellular? Any other palliative?
Transarterial chemoembolization.
Other than then what else?
Then radio frequency ablation.
What should be the size of the tumor radio frequency ablation?
Less than 2 centimeters.
Any other technique?
Then chemoembolization. Then radio frequency ablation.
Other
Microwave
mentioned.
ablation.
Yes.
Then we can use
either energy based or chemical based.
chemical.
What is the chemical based this palliation?
Chemoembolization using doxorubicin or 5-fluorouracil.
Chemical based
chemical ethanol or acetic acid. Ethanol acetic acid we can use.
Total ethanol injection. That is also palliation. Yes. I think time is 9 o'clock. Yes.
Now there are no liver lesions. There is no stomach. There is no colon. It is coming from carcinoid.
Neuroendocrine. We can neuroendocrine, if it's causing no symptoms, then it can be managed by surveillance only. If it is only symptomatic, then we can plan for any surgery. The mainstay is medical therapy for symptoms.
If there are carcinoid syndrome, then you would treat. Otherwise, you cannot offer much of treatment. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Much of treatment. Now there is neuroendocrine tumor metastasizing. What will you do? How do you first of all differentiate between any method to diagnose, any scan to do the diagnosis of neuroendocrine tumors?
Gallium, somatostatin receptor scintigraphy.
Analogs. Somatostatin or octreotide analogs are used. What are they called?
Octreotide, laserotide.
Dotatot,
gallium dotatot.
Dotanac and Dotatot, isn't it? Dotatate. Dotanoc and Dotatate scans. They are technetium. Actually, they are technetium based. Okay, so that can be used. So that they can be used to diagnose. Okay. And any other patient that would come in there? Malignant melanoma again.
Malignant melanoma. We should do. We should look for. You should go for
ophthalmology or distal, limb, anorectal area. These are the areas where you get a lot of these things missed. Then melanotic melanoma. These are melanoma. You will not be able to find out. Right? These are the reasons why you get metastatic liver disease. Can you think in terms of any primary liver disease which are benign here?
So hepatoma.
They're malignant disease, isn't it?
Malignant disease.
Hepatoma. Benign.
Hepatic adenoma.
Common benign condition.
Hemangioma.
That's the commonest thing. How do you make a diagnosis? How do you differentiate from a hepatocellular carcinoma?
Hemangioma on the CT. There'll be peripheral enhancement and early venous washout.
What do you do for that?
Hemangioma. Hemangioma can, if it is a small, no symptoms, then you can wait and you can go for surveillance. Or
you should wait and watch. You wouldn't do any other benign lesion that can come there, almost asymptomatic as in your case.
Follicular nodular hyperplasia.
Yes. Anything else?
Then
benign, bigger mass, asymptomatic. No trace of primary. You are thinking weight loss is not there. Can hydatids come there?
Hydatids system.
So you should have a broader broader, mind at the time when you examine this patient. Whenever you have very little symptoms of a primary and very little evidence of a clinical evidence of a primary, you should keep a broader, mind and entertain everything and then rule out one after another by investigations. Okay. Gopi sir.
I think time is over. I congratulate. I don't know words to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Santosh John Abra and Amir Ali. Very excellent questions and lead the exams very nicely. And before concluding, we want to actually inauguration not over. The answer just I think joined. I want to invite him for these few words, like as the inaugurations not possible now. Dance and the end of workshop. Please come to.
Nice. Thank you, Dr. Gobi. I couldn't join for various technical reasons at the right time. To Anand Nair, Dr. Santosh John has asked all sort of questions. Dr. Amir Ali has really put in all efforts to extract everything from you. With a prepared mind, it is very easy to answer most of those sophisticated questions. But I would ask you one question. What will you consider when you have got a diffuse nodular hepatomegaly? This is how you should go about in evaluation of liver.
Diffuse nodular, it might, most probably it might be cirrhosis from the history of my patient. Could be cirrhosis.
I think Dr. Santosh also has made you answer like the hydatid disease. See, there is a condition called polycystic disease of the liver, which can be associated with polycystic disease of the kidney and pancreas.
Yes.
Major non-tender diffuse nodular hepatomegaly. Because hepatomegaly clinically can be put as diffuse hepatomegaly, localized hepatomegaly, tender one, non-tender one, associated with jaundice, without jaundice, with ascites, with splenomegaly. See, if you can put it in a tabular form, it's very easy to sort out from the clinical examination point of view alone. You have done a wonderful job in answering most of the questions. Very difficult one. It's not very easy to get through some of those. And though the inauguration part is superfluous now, I do it again with utmost sincerity and appreciation that Gopi has taken over this particular mantle of postgraduate PG clinics. Thank you, Gopi. I can see the Anta Babu sir. Santosh, you have done a wonderful job with RRC as well.
Next, sir, Dayananda Babu sir. Another second. Felicitations.
Dr. Gopi sir, there is a request to remove the slides so that people can be seen. So Anand, you can stop sharing. That's right.
So,
okay.
Thank you, Gopi. It gives me immense pleasure to talk a few words. Let me at the very outset congratulate Professor E.V. Gopi for organizing the PG clinics in the state. Let me also thank the organizing team for inviting me to be part of the program, as it is given analyzer or I don't know, evaluator, analyzer. I consider it as an important educational program because the role of clinical exam is slowly fading, at least in Kerala. Why I say is because if you analyze the clinical exam results, you realize that 99% of the students pass the clinical examination. I still remember the astute clinical professors of years. Like I still remember Professor Balsalam could diagnose a splenic cyst clinically or a lipoma breast clinically. So also one of my professors, Professor K.J. Jacob, he could diagnose a nasopharyngeal carcinoma clinically. I do agree that some of the clinical tests are obsolete. I do also agree that the failures of the years for missing a small clinical finding was unwarranted. The most recurring nightmare haunting a student is, of course, the examination. And most of the examiners are lions, except for teeth. The university exam brings dread and fear into the hearts of the students. So make sure or make use of every opportunity to present a case during your training period. As Atul Gawande said, practice gives perfection, and perfection is excitement. So practice your clinical presentation. There is no other alternative. Practice answering questions. Practice correct method of examination. Always with mistakes, and don't cover up your mistakes, especially in the examination. Keep always a checklist. That is why I'm always giving checklist. Keep negatives to the minimum. Don't say too many no, like that. And when you reach the examination hall, greet the examiner with a smile. Speak clearly and loudly. That is very important. It should be audible. Don't be too fast or too slow. Don't argue with the examiner. Don't cook up findings to suit your diagnosis. Always be honest. Remember, common things are common. Especially the same case, if you take, don't go with the idea that it is metastasis only. If it is metastasis, you should have mentioned the sources of primary, at least clinical examination of the primary areas. Maybe you didn't mention female patient or male patient. Your patient is male. Alcoholic, and you never mentioned about the stigmata of liver disease, which is very, very, very important. So, and also you should know the CT findings. What will be the CT finding of a secondary, Anand?
It will be non-enhancing liver metastasis.
Non-enhancing means it will enhance in the portovenous space, not in the arterial phase. Arterial phase it will not. What is MELD?
Model for end-stage liver disease.
What are the components?
Serum creatinine, serum bilirubin, and PTNR.
INR. Okay. So, of course, everything was discussed, but as towards the end, as somebody said, the differential diagnosis. Always you should know the differential diagnosis. Maybe don't think that it is only primary or secondary, maybe inflammatory conditions, maybe parasitic conditions, maybe it's liver abscess. So all those things should be there in your mind. And when you mention that it is 7x5, and then you said it is extending from right hypochondrium to the epigastrium, I felt by seeing the mass, it is a big mass, cannot be 7x5. So you should have an idea. When you say 7x5, it is not a big mass. And you said it is right hypochondrium extending to the epigastrium. So it is a fairly big mass. So that is also obvious from your clinical photo. I don't know, but make measurements with tape only. Otherwise, you may miss. So I think it was a very nice clinical discussion, and you have performed or answered most of the questions, and your performance was satisfied. Thank you.
And sir, anything more?
That is fine. I think Babu sir has wound up very well, given good advice to the student who is going to appear for exams. Babu sir, in fact, presented it earlier also, how to appear for an exam, how to present in exams, etc. So it's a fantastic advice that all students should carry home with that particular concepts.
I think with
Thank you
permission,
for this.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll wind up.
Okay, sir.
Professor,
Ravi sir, say something, no? Yeah.
So,
we will wind up or
clear. If you want, sir, you can say something. You can say.
no? I think better wind up.
Before concluding, I wanted to say a few words.
Yes.
I thank the whole team of Kerala to have invited me as an outside member to be a part of your session. I am very humbled. Thank you, my friend, for having considered me. And to Anand, who has done a very good presentation. Keep it up, Anand. I am very happy that you have presented well. I will be conveying this message to my PGs, and then how our webinar, went on. And like Professor Dayanand told just a few minutes ago, that common things are always common. And we should not think it could be only secondaries or primary. In India, we should always think of amoebic liver abscess. That is very important, because a discussion will definitely come on amoebic liver abscess, and you should be prepared for it. Like patients coming to Enapaya Medical College, Mangalore, most of the patients are coming from Shimoga and Chitradurga, and most of them we have got plenty of amoebic liver abscess patients coming. So the common things are always common, like Professor Dayanand Babu well said. Okay, thank you, Dr. Santosh, for a wonderful session, and Dr. Gopi and Dr. Dayanand. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the examiners, Amir Ali, Sundar John Abraham, and the other examiners. I don't know how they're not ended. That is PJ Babu and Anil Kumar. Some problem with that. And also I express sincere thanks to our senior professors, Dr. Dayanand sir and Ran sir. And this will be available in the Facebook and YouTube. And you can the next before next examination, there will be going to pay a minimal amount. I will personally inform you later. And next presentation from the Trivandrum Medical College, the case from the Trivandrum Medical. The panel examination will be informed later. Thank you to all. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Hope to meet you all soon on live very soon.
Good night.
Good night.